Great news, more great news. California has begun a massive program to clean up its voter rolls thanks to a Judicial Watch legal settlement. Now, I've told you about this process before, or about this lawsuit before. We had sued Los Angeles County in the state of California on our behalf, and some citizens of California and a great group in California called the Election Integrity Project of California that has long been involved in monitoring California voter rolls. You know, in California, the federal, well, just generally speaking, federal law requires states to take reasonable steps to clean up the rolls. And Judicial Watch has been in the forefront in becoming the first private entities ever to sue under this law to enforce that law. We had successful settlements in Ohio. In Kentucky, there's a consent decree. Indiana, they changed their behavior thanks to our lawsuit. And in California, we found there were many counties, like in Los Angeles, that had more people on the rolls than were living there and eligible to vote. That's a pretty good indication, don't you think, that they're not taking reasonable steps to clean up the rolls? And California is an important state. Los Angeles has over 10 million residents alone. 10 million. Which is more than the populations of 41 of the 50 states. It'd be a top 10 state if it were just Los Angeles County. It's that big. And they had over 20% extra name, so they had 20% more names on the rolls than were eligible to vote. And nationally, there are 3.5 million names. And in one county in California, of those 3.5, there are 1.5 million extra names, so-called inactive voters, people who should really be removed from the rolls. And California hadn't enforced that law, as I say, for over 20 years. So Judicial Watch sued, and California saw the writing on the wall. Supreme Court in last year upheld Judicial Watch's settlement in Ohio, saying the states needed to do certain things to clean up the rolls that were required. So they settled with us. The Secretary of State did in Los Angeles County. And they committed to taking steps to remove up to 1.5 million inactive voters from the rolls. Isn't that incredible? Now, why is this important in terms of election integrity? Because dirty voting rolls can mean dirty elections. If you've got this big pool of, quote, inactive voters, if someone wants to vote illegally, there's a big list they can choose from, especially in a state like California, which has virtually no voter ID requirement. So cleaning up those names from the rolls is essential to good governance and clean elections. So we had the settlement agreement, which we announced earlier this year, and California and Los Angeles County almost immediately began complying. In March, they mailed 1.5 million names on this inactive voter list. 1.5 million. I think it was 1.51 million in just one mailing. And so what happens if those folks don't reply or otherwise vote in the next two federal elections, which means 2020 and 2022, their names will be removed. And they could be removed sooner if people start calling LA County or communicating with them, or they find out people are dead. So it will lead to the immediate removal and cleanup of California's or Los Angeles County's election rolls. It's great news. And it's obviously a model for other states and other counties in California which have similar problems, like San Diego County, to get on the ball and begin cleaning it up. This problem's taken 20 years to get to where it is. It's going to take a few years to clean up the list, but everyone's on notice that we need to be cleaning up the rolls, and it's thanks to Judicial Watch. Not the Justice Department, not Congress, not the media. It's thanks to Judicial Watch. Now, I thought the mailing was to 1.5 million. You know, they did that one mailing. And it turns out they did other mailings as well. They reported to us just the other day. So the number of inactive people they're contacting in these mailings is now 1.59 million. The number we've been using, we thought it was going to be up to 1.56 million names that would be possibly removed. Now it's up to 1.59 million, approaching 1.6 million. So the number is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as importantly, part of the settlement agreement was the Secretary of State agreed to update the state's online manual in order, this is the Voting Registration Act manual, in order to make clear that ineligible names must be removed and to notify each California county that they're obliged to do this. So every California county has been now notified by the Secretary of State that they need to start cleanups. Including as the Secretary of State will be sending written advisories to all counties. He's already done it, supposedly. To all county clerks, registers of voters in California, stating that current federal law requires the cancellation of a registrant who has failed to respond to an official notice, this is the mailing I'm talking about, or similar mailings, and who then fails to vote, offers to vote, correct the register's record, or, quote, otherwise have their eligibility to vote confirmed for a period of time, including the next 2 general federal elections. They haven't been doing this for almost 20 years, and now they're doing it. California voting rolls are now going to be cleaner thanks to this Judicial Watch federal lawsuit. So it's great news, just great news.